One of the situations I'm asked about a lot is someone like you will get 100 shots to clean up in a week and you need to remove a logo. Well, there's the right way and there's the fast way, and I'm here to show you the fast way because it's amazing what you can get away with. Let's say that we need to remove just these two signs off of the door. We'll add lockdown. One of the tricks I got away with my whole career is sometimes you can just track one point. So for example, I'll put a point here and then make a few adjustments through the shot. And track just this one point. So that looks pretty good. Now we just need to deal with it going off screen. So in order to deal with the point that dies and goes off screen, you can see these base keyframes down here as a lighter gray and a darker gray where it can no longer track because it's out of the frame. All you have to do is find another point somewhere nearby and track that for the rest of the shot. So I'll just press track all. And now with this point selected here, you can see it's still dead. Then when we turn on interpolation, it's making a connection to this point that's nearby. And you'll see that it tracks out of the frame up until it has its base keyframes here. There's a tutorial on interpolation on our homepage. Okay, so now let's actually start compositing. We're just going to use one point. I'll use Control, Alt, Shift, and click to generally frame up the car. I'll auto-triangulate, and then I'm just going to Alt-click and drag through these lines because I just need this one quad. And now let's see how these points are moving. They look a little bit strange because they're connected to both points and they're moving with position, scale, and rotation. And that would actually work, but for the purpose of this tutorial, I want to select these points and have them only follow the position of one single tracked point. So we'll grab these points, and then using the custom interpolation tool, set custom points for interpolation, choose this one point as your set point, and then click off of it. And now these 4 points, as you can see by these white guide point lines, are just following this one point here using only position. It's a very simple track. Okay, good enough. Like I said, we are on a deadline. We have 100 shots to do in a week, and we're going to paint this out after only having tracked one point. I'll press lockdown, and let's go into the stabilized comp. We can remove the checkerboard and the lowest background layer. And here's how it looks. The first thing to do so we can actually work with this is let's make it not a guide layer, pre-compose it moving all attributes into the comp, and then let's do a loose mask around these two signs. So grab the pen tool, and again, not even going to get that close to it. Just going to draw these 4 points, set this to none for now, and we'll do a very loose roto. Okay, good enough. Now, let's subtract, and then we're going to duplicate this layer and move it down to the bottom. So this layer on the bottom is going to be used to fill in this patch. I'm going to solo it for a second, and you can take this mask and duplicate it, and we'll set it to intersect. So right now you're not seeing anything. We can just expand this. And now what's happening is this mask is the same as this one, and it's just creating an intersection border. So this is going to be 25 pixels wider than this mask is, and the image that we're getting is the outside of this mask and the inside of that mask. And this is what it looks like. We're probably getting a little bit too much there because I don't want to see the door handle or the other textures. I'll just bring that down a little bit. Okay, good enough. Let's unsolo this. And for this bottom layer, let's just throw on a blur. Start with a fast blur and make it vertical. And we're going to increase this. Now right now you can't really see what's happening. If I turn off this checkerboard background, you can get a slight hint at what's happening. It's bleeding the pixels from the top to the bottom. Let's go to curves, alpha, and just bump that up so we can actually see that. Now when we play with this fast blur, you can see what it's doing. It's just bleeding the colors from the top and the bottom together. And then when we blend it enough, I'll hide my mask, you can see it almost covers that. It's not too bad. Then I'm going to duplicate this fast box blur effect and make it horizontal. And I can tell you this one doesn't need nearly as much. Just a little bit because we're making a reflection. And now, if we just scrub through here, it's actually not doing the worst job. For this layer on the top, we hadn't feathered that yet. So we'll feather a little bit horizontal and probably a little bit more vertical. And finally, because I think that we want this contained to just be rendering over the top of where we made the changes, I'm going to make a new solid, copying the mask I made to a solid layer. So we'll expand that quite a bit. And its silhouette alpha is going to just grab the areas in here. Okay, so now let's go back to the main shot and see how that looks. It's actually not that bad. If you're staring right at it, you'll certainly notice it, but it's amazing how much you can get away with. And now I know you're sitting there and you're thinking, hey, like, this is ridiculous. This looks terrible. This isn't going to fool anyone. Well, actually, depending on how observant you were, I just brought back in the original footage. If you take a look at this logo here, I used the same exact removal procedure to get rid of it. And be honest with yourself, did you even see it during the first part of this tutorial? If you look at it now, you can tell that that's a little bit screwy. But the point is, when you have a really big production and you don't want to have just a blur, so for example, something that looks like this, with very little extra effort, you can make something that looks like this that people won't notice unless they're really looking for it. And actually, this stock footage that I downloaded, they did the same thing to the license plate, and this doesn't even look good at all. This is just blurred over. But you probably didn't notice because you weren't focused on it. That's all there is for this tutorial. Thanks for watching. For more info, check out aescripts.com/lockdown.